3 years ago, the whole planet Earth changed suddenly. After this change, the animals and plants in the world started to evolve very fast, like crazy. All sorts of powerful and strange creatures appeared from the wild. Meanwhile, some very strange things were happening in the night sky, like shooting stars falling. This whole new situation was happening to stop the world from getting totally destroyed and to keep some peace. This crop is mostly black space, setting a transition to the next part of the story. Humans also got a new power. They awakened the ability to control these monsters and make them fight for them. And these special people who gain this control power have a special name. They are called Imperial Ambassadors, and here we see a teacher talking about them. The teacher, Murong, who is the head teacher of Class 3 at Chang'an 3rd Senior High School, was explaining things. She told the students that from that year, the Earth entered a new era. She warned the students to remember everything because all these points would be tested later. The bell rang, signaling the end of the class. The teacher then announced that there would be an examination of animal breeding tomorrow, and interested students could go with their parents to check it out. The setting now shifts to the outside of the Chang'an 3rd Senior High School building as the sun sets. We zoom in on a young man named Gao Peng who is walking down the street after school. This is Gao Peng, an 18-year-old student at Chang'an 3rd Senior High School, who really dreams of becoming an Imperial Ambassador one day. Lately, however, Gao Peng felt like he was running into some trouble. He kept walking forward, silhouetted against the bright light ahead, trying to get home. Suddenly, a system notification appeared in front of him, congratulating the host for binding with the monster evolution system. This system could help him identify monster information, and he should use it well. Gao Peng thought he often saw these strange interfaces floating around, but he was unsure if it was just stress making him see things. The system showed no target for the monster's name, level, and other details. He reached the entrance of his building, wondering if these floating screens were just a hallucination caused by all the recent stress. He started climbing the stairs inside the dimly lit building. As he walked up, he suddenly stopped and looked around, asking, huh? Because something didn't feel right. Down the hallway, a huge, dark spider with glowing red eyes appeared, making scary sounds. The system screen immediately displayed information about this creature. It was a gray disc spider, level 3, Beastmaster quality, and its weakness was fire. Gao Peng realized this was no illusion and remembered something about this specific spider. He thought, it doesn't seem to be an illusion. Someone nearby said, the gray disc spider is the spider raised by Grandma Chen, right? And Gao Peng recalled that teacher Murong said these spiders were usually very gentle. Suddenly, the spider moved with incredible speed and lunged right at him. Gao Peng reacted with shock as the spider's sharp leg came right towards him. He mentally yelled back at the memory of the teacher saying it was gentle, thinking, gentle my ass, as the spider crashed down near him. Panicked, Gao Peng yelled out for Granny Chen, while realizing the situation was serious as someone else shouted, your spider came out to bite people. The spider seemed to be shrouded in some dark energy and was about to shoot out a strong web attack. This crop shows the intense motion of the spider attacking with sound effects. Gao Peng narrowly avoided the massive sticky web attack by scrambling back on the stairs, shouting, so close. He looked up, confused, with a single bead of sweat rolling down his face. The spider had caught up to him incredibly fast, and Gao Peng was surprised, thinking, you've caught up so quickly. Facing the terrifying monster closing in, Gao Peng frantically thought, what to do? What to do? As he panicked, the system panel popped up again, reminding him of the monster's weakness, flame. He remembered, that's right, use fire. Quickly, Gao Peng pulled out his lighter and flicked it on, saying wipe, possibly to light something on fire. He jumped, trying to dodge the monster's attack while aiming the small flame towards it. The small flame connected, causing a surprisingly big explosion on the spider. He thought, that's great! The spider was clearly affected by the fire, and Gao Peng realized, using fire is effective. Then Gao Peng got worried again, realizing, wait a minute, the fire is too small. As the spider started moving again with a heavy thud sound, the gray disc spider absorbed the flames and now looked even angrier and more powerful, covered in burning energy. The spider glared at him with glowing red eyes, and Gao Peng realized with dread, this guy seems to have been pissed off at me. He pushed himself further, thinking he was close to safety, one more floor and I'll be at home. He hoped to reach his apartment where his other monster, Big Purple, was, thinking, Big Purple is at home, as long as I get home, I'm safe. But the spider shot a web at him. Gao Peng reached his door just as the web almost got him, yelling ha. As he stumbled inside, shouting, arrived. He slammed the door shut just as the giant, dark silhouette of the spider was about to enter, its glowing red eyes staring at him. Gao Peng looked up with wide, determined eyes that were now glowing red, facing the threat head-on. He screamed out, "Big Purple!" as something large and purple exploded through the door. A massive, purple, armored centipede-like creature, presumably Big Purple, appeared in a flash of white light, crashing into the space. Gao Peng took cover as Big Purple's massive form filled the small space violently. The gray disc spider was clearly injured and scared by the appearance of this new, huge monster, making small squeaking sounds. Gao Peng got up, looking at the defeated spider, and then looked up at the imposing figure of his own monster, saying "Hugh," as the spider whimpered "Jai Jai Jai." Gao Peng stood confidently beside his giant purple monster, looking down at the smaller spider and asking the injured gray disc spider, "Little thing, you still want to play?" The little creature flies out suddenly, making the main character look up with surprise. The young man adjusts his glasses, acknowledging the speedy movement of his companion. The dark, shadowy monster creature expresses its strong hunger telepathically to the boy. The small, purple and yellow creature appears in its non-combat form, yelling about being starved. The system explains that monsters have two forms, a larger combat form and a smaller non-combat form used to save energy and heal minor wounds. The young man quickly agrees to cook for the hungry monster. He asks his pet to help him put his bag away as he enters the room. The focus shifts to the kitchen counter and then to the young man gripping something tightly, perhaps preparing to cook. Putting on an apron, the young man declares it is time to show off his real cooking skills. With rapid movements, his hands start expertly slicing meat on the cutting board. His chopping is so fast that cubes of carrot fly through the air with great speed. Finally, the special nutrition dinner is ready, steaming hot and looking very appealing. The little monster sniffs the bowl happily, clearly looking forward to eating the meal. The young man tells his pet to eat slowly so it doesn't choke, as the small centipede-like creature rushes to the bowl. He then opens a system interface in front of his eyes, perhaps checking information about his monster. The system displays the detailed information for his monster, a purple-backed yellow-clawed centipede, currently at ordinary quality. The young man is shocked, seeing the option to upgrade his ordinary quality monster to elite quality, wondering if he is reading this right. The system shows the hierarchy of monster quality, ordinary at the bottom, elite in the middle, and perfect at the top. He wonders if reaching elite quality means he can eventually aim for perfect quality next. He gets excited thinking about a perfect quality monster, which could break legendary barriers and become a leader rank. He cheers that this is really happening and promises his pet, Dazai, that he will get it promoted to elite quality. He hugs Dazai excitedly, who looks confused by all the excitement and hearts floating around. The young man decides to check the specific requirements for Dazai's promotion to elite quality on the system. Requirements list 3 items, 10 pieces of yin shang grass, 1 piece of thunder wood, and 1 piece of thunder crystal core. He notes that yin shang grass is easy to get, but the thunder crystal core seems troublesome, as common cores cost 8 credits. He figures a rare attribute like thunder would cost at least 10 credits for the crystal core, realizing it's a bit expensive. The narrative explains that after the New World Alliance formed, the currency became union currency and credits, with 10,000 affiliate coins making 1 credit point. He recalls that his parents' accident resulted in a 20 credit pension from the state. His balance shows 11.00 credits, which is just enough for Dazai's promotion materials, but he worries about getting through the rest of the days with so little money left. Dazai cleans the empty bowl quickly, showing how much he ate. The little centipede is still hungry and tells the young man he wants more food, to which the boy replies, "Hey, you're a centipede." Dazai insists loudly to eat more. The young man gives in, saying, all right, I got it." He serves Dazai the rest of the food, telling it to eat everything but not to mess up his stomach. He worries because even after getting the promotion method, he has no money for the materials, which is a big headache, reflecting that money is what truly matters in this world. Dazai snuggles up close to him while he is stressed out. Suddenly, a thought strikes him, and he realizes that if the system information is correct, he might be able to become a monster trainer. He gets a confident smile, thinking that since he can see the promotion requirements directly, he could become the top monster trainer. He imagines a powerful silhouette behind him as he thinks about how much money he will make once he is the top trainer. The system shows an underwater scene with different water-based monsters floating around. He continues to think that monster promotion is a mystery explored by trainers, but he can see it directly. This means he can become the top monster trainer, and once he is, he can have as much money as he wants. He celebrates happily, then remembers hearing that there is a monster trainer exam tomorrow, open for interested students and their parents to observe. A figure, perhaps a teacher, announces the exam, and the young man reacts with a nervous right as he looks at his phone. He frantically checks his phone, worrying because he doesn't know when the registration period closes, only to see there are only 3 minutes left. The phone screen shows a deadline countdown with only 3 minutes remaining, asking if he wants to apply for the monster trainer exam. He selects yes, but the system responds with "System busy, please wait," showing a loading symbol. Despite the delay, the system finally shows a message, "Congratulations on your successful registration," and instructs him to arrive at 9:00 a.m. sharp tomorrow at the Chang'an City Monster Division. The young man raises his phone in triumph, exclaiming that he managed to register just in time. The more any worries, thanking her and promising to treat her to dinner when he returns. Tang Tang waves him off, telling him to go and take the test. After he leaves, Tang Tang looks at the pet with a frown, saying that its quality is just ordinary and not cute. She wonders how Peng got involved with such an unlucky thing. The little monster seems to react poorly to her words, making some sharp sounds. Tang Tang then tells someone on the phone that the old man will be angry when he finds out. She looks at the phone, then down at the pet, while continuing the call. The scene briefly shows a nice, modern dining area before focusing back on the phone call. The person on the phone is told that Xiaopeng signed an imperial beast, a purple-backed, yellow-clawed centipede of ordinary quality. The person on the other end is shocked, saying ordinary quality beasts have limited talent and are hard to raise, asking why Tang Tang doesn't talk to Xiaopeng about it. Tang Tang replies that she cannot persuade him because her grandson is just as stubborn as he is. She explains that even though he seems carefree, he is actually very stubborn like an ox. Tang Tang then points out in a picture frame that this centipede monster was left by his daughter and son-in-law again, and asks if their business outside is finished yet. The person on the phone replies darkly that they will kill all the disobedient people and replace them with obedient ones. Tang Tang sighs, letting it go and saying that the person has their own ideas, so it was her fault for talking too much. She reassures the person on the phone about Xiaopeng, saying not to worry when he is with her. The call ends abruptly as a hand presses the hang-up button on the screen. The setting shifts to a large, luxurious office where a woman reports to a chairman standing by the window. The chairman gives harsh instructions, telling the assistant to give the lab only 5 months where they don't need to exist, and mentions Lai needs to solve the Qinghai branch problem within 7 months because he doesn't have much time to waste. The assistant quickly agrees to do it right away. The chairman then looks at a picture on his phone, talking softly about Xiaopeng, saying everything will be solved within a year, and then he will go to him. The picture shows the chairman smiling happily while holding a small, cheerful boy who looks like Xiaopeng. He vows that no one will be able to hurt Xiaopeng then, as the scene changes to the Chang'an City Monster Division building. A huge crowd has gathered outside the division building, showing how popular monster trainers are. Some people in the crowd are talking amongst themselves. Xiaopeng notes how many people are there, observing that monster trainers are a hot commodity when someone shouts his name, Gao Peng. Someone calls out to him and points the way, and Xiaopeng wonders if it is Lai Zigong. Lai Zigong excitedly greets Gao Peng with 2 girls, Lai Hongdu and Zhang Hong, standing beside him. Xiaopeng returns the greeting, saying hello to Auntie, addressing the woman with Lai Zigong. The woman asks Xiaopeng if he came alone to watch the exam, to which Lai Zigong happily replies that they are there with their mom to take the exam. One of the girls, Lai Hongdu, insists that although her mom failed 3 times, she will pass this time, which makes Lai Zigong angry and he complains about her patting his head. He tells her it has nothing to do with him. Xiaopeng interrupts, stating he is there to take the exam, which shocks Lai Zigong and the girls. Someone grabs Lai Zigong's wrist sharply. The woman smiles at Xiaopeng, saying young people should be ambitious and that maybe the youngest monster trainer in Chang'an will be born today. Xiaopeng smiles back humbly, saying it's not as good as the auntie said, he just came to try his luck. Lai Zigong, upon hearing this, yells in disbelief about the youngest monster trainer in Chang'an City. An older, wealth-looking man among the onlookers scoffs, asking when the standard for monster trainers got so low. The older man continues to insult them, asking if any dog or cat can participate, while Lai Zigong yells at him. The older man then clearly states his opinion that it is ridiculous for a kid to want to be a trainer. He further adds that if just talking could make someone a trainer, they must already be a senior monster trainer. Xiaopeng, looking tiny in comparison, spreads his hands, and the older man points at him, yelling you, before saying they will see about that. Lai Zigong, confused, asks who that guy is and what is wrong with him. The red-haired woman explains that it is Wang Shu, the son of the Wang group, who has failed the monster trainer's exam 4 times already, and seeing Xiao Peng so young makes him unbalanced. Suddenly, there is a loud sound as a door bursts open in a cloud of smoke, and someone shouts that the door is opening. Security personnel in gear step out, holding shields and batons, ready to control the crowd. Feng Zhu, the chief examiner of the Chang'an Monster Trainers Division, appears dramatically and announces the exam is starting, asking everyone to take the test in an orderly manner. The story begins at the Chang'an City Trainers Division building on a bright day. A stern-looking examiner with long blue hair and an eye patch stands at a podium to address the candidates. He announces the start of the Monster Trainers exam, where a young man with glasses sits, seemingly ready. The examiner explains that the test has 2 parts, a written test and a martial arts test, with the first being a written one based on 3 videos shown on a big screen. Passing requires accurately describing the monsters in the videos. With no more delay, the examination starts and the official walks away from the screen. The screen turns on, showing what looks like an underwater recording. Sounds of splashing are heard as a large, dark, dolphin-like creature appears in the water. The creature, the storm dolphin, is clearly visible through the recording frame, glowing with blue eyes. The creature unleashes some kind of electrical or water power, and the sound of impact echoes in the room. The focus returns to the exam room, showing the few remaining candidates focused on their papers. The examiner announces that this is the first video and gives the candidates 20 minutes to think about their answers. Some candidates panic, wondering what kind of monster they just saw and complaining about the short viewing time, with one even giving up and deciding to try next year. The examiner gets angry at the noise and warns everyone that any more talking will be considered cheating and lead to expulsion. After the warning, the examiner notes that this year's literary test is the hardest in recent years, while an older, heavy-set man with blonde hair smirks, holding something secret. The blonde man smugly thinks to himself that he was lucky to get the exam questions beforehand. Then he looks surprised when someone makes a sound. The young man with glasses, Gao Peng, dismisses the blonde man's bragging with a slight smirk. Gao Peng beams, confident that he can see what needs to be seen. Gao Peng activates his system ability, demanding the data for the storm dolphin, and immediately receives information about its likes, soothing music, sunbathing, and eating fish and shrimp. The system also provides its fears, dark attribute attacks, and cluttered sound waves, as Gao Peng quickly writes this down on his test paper. The screen switches to the second video, showing a dense forest recording. The recording zooms in on a gorilla-like monster reaching for a bunch of bananas hanging from a tree. The monster seems enraged and smashes something, likely the bananas or the branch they were on. Gao Peng records the information for the mighty gorilla, noting it likes climbing trees, eating bananas, is impatient, easily angered, and fears poisonous monster attacks. Gao Peng diligently writes down the notes about the second monster while the video continues. The third video starts, focusing on a jungle floor with tall grass and a hidden creature moving. A close-up reveals a large, insect-like monster moving stealthily through the foliage. The recording pans up to the canopy of tall trees where the creature is located. Gao Peng identifies the scythe mantis, recording that it fights for courage and strength, is carnivorous, likes eating insects, and fears fire and flame attacks. Gao Peng looks up from his paper, a confident and satisfied look on his face after gathering all the necessary details. His watch beeps at 10:00, indicating the end of the thinking time, and the examiner tells everyone that the papers will now be collected. An official goes around collecting the written tests from the students, and the examiner instructs everyone to wait in the branch for the results. Gao Peng happily hands his paper to the collecting official, saying okay. 1 hour later, the scene shifts to a quiet, empty hallway outside the exam room. The examiner returns to the podium, announcing that the results are out and he will now read the list of qualified people. He starts listing names like Liu Zukin and Lin Senlin. The examiner reads out Zhang Hong, who looks relieved, noting her score of 81. Zhang Hong breathes a sigh of relief, clearly happy that she passed despite some mistakes. Next is Wang Shu, who scored 86 and smiles, saying it was as he expected. The examiner confirms that those listed made some mistakes, but still managed to pass their exams. He wishes those who passed luck in the upcoming martial arts exam, but then the blonde man asks why Gao Peng's name wasn't called and points out that he did not pass. The blonde man gloats that it is a pity and they won't see the youngest monster trainer in Chang'an today, leaving Gao Peng looking downcast for a moment. Gao Peng, however, seems unconvinced and wonders if the system made a mistake in the data provided. The examiner, turning around, asks the room, "By the way, who is Gao Peng?" Creating a moment of suspense. Gao Peng stands up and confirms that he is Gao Peng, but the examiner expresses surprise, stating he did not expect the perfect scorer to be so young. The examiner smiles warmly, clapping his hands, and compliments Gao Peng, saying heroes are truly young, as the other students react with shock about his perfect score. The other candidates are amazed that this young high school student achieved a perfect score, suggesting he has a very promising future as the youngest trainer in the city. Gao Peng smiles back at the examiner, who apologizes for letting him down, implying the written test score was somehow not registered correctly to pass him. The blond man in the background clenches his fists, clearly angry and frustrated by Gao Peng's outstanding performance despite the initial announcement. The scene opens with a hand interacting with some kind of futuristic, glowing interface. A group of people stands together, waiting for instructions in a large, modern facility. One young man in glasses looks around, thinking about how big the place is. The supervisor announces the start of the second exam for the martial arts test in the vast hall. The supervisor explains that the test is simple: improve the quality of a provided monster within a week to pass. He continues to explain that all materials used will be paid for by the association, showing shelves of potions and supplies. However, he warns that if the quality is not improved, the participants must pay the market price for any used materials. Furthermore, using too much material beyond a certain limit will also count as a failure, showing the supervisor looking serious. The candidates react with a mix of shock and focus as the supervisor prepares to give out room cards. The supervisor, introduced as Lai Jin from Chang'an's Monsters Division, asks everyone to take their room cards one by one. A participant expresses that they have no idea what monster they will get in this random draw, making this certificate hard to earn. The young man realizes why this monster trainer certificate is considered so difficult to obtain. Someone else dismisses the main character with a harsh comment, but the main character just hopes for a good draw before stepping up. The main character nervously approaches the podium to draw his room card, his hand hovering over the slot. He pulls out a glowing card, indicating his assigned room number. He exchanges a brief, cold glance with the supervisor before moving on. The supervisor gives a slight, somewhat mocking smile. A female participant happily shows her card, number 6, and asks the main character, Xiao Peng, for his number. Xiao Peng smiles brightly, showing his card, number 10, and then they are told to find their respective rooms. The candidates start dispersing to find their rooms, and the supervisor signals the official start of the examination. With a dramatic gesture, the supervisor declares the martial arts examination officially begins. Xiao Peng finds his assigned room, number 10, and is greeted by Zhu Yuan, who is in charge of his area, and Xiao Peng politely says he will trouble him. The two shake hands, sealing their initial acquaintance. Xiao Peng uses his card to gain access to room 10 and looks shocked as the door opens. Inside the dark room, a menacing presence is felt, indicated by heavy breathing sounds. A tall shadow with glowing red eyes is cast on the floor, showing the monster inside. Xiao Peng checks the system display and is aghast, asking what happened to this Red River ape. He explains to the other staff member that too much past experimentation has caused waste and conflicting energy in the ape's body. The staff member explains that this ape should have been eliminated, but there were no other monsters left for training. Another person, Mr. Wang, questions Director Lai why such a flawed ape was assigned, but Director Lai assures him he has his own agenda. Director Lai then confidently tells Mr. Wang that he guarantees the kid will fail the test, no matter how good he is. Mr. Wang explains to Director Lai that the Red River ape has only survived due to stubbornness, and its promotion possibility is too low, making it overly difficult. Mr. Wang kindly offers to let the student keep his written exam score and try the martial exam next time, but Xiao Peng refuses the offer. In the dark room, the menacing red eyes stare out from behind the cage bars. Xiao Peng tells Mr. Wang that he appreciates his kind words but has decided to proceed with the current ape. Mr. Wang smiles and tells him to go for it, seemingly eager to see the result. Xiao Peng enters the room, and the sound of the door closing echoes ominously. He stands facing the massive, imposing Red River ape caged before him. The ape looks utterly miserable, with one eye damaged, and someone wonders why the culture solution isn't working even with correct materials. Another person states that there is a serious conflict of energy in the ape's body, making it impossible to start any evolution. Someone declares that the Red River ape is completely ruined and it's hopeless. The ape roars in distress, pounding its fists against the bars. The creature continues its terrifying, loud outburst. A A tear rolls down the ape's eye, and in its reflection, Xiao Peng's concerned face can be seen as he gently touches the creature's head. Ignoring the grim prognosis from others, Xiao Peng crouches down to the ape and reassures it, promising he will definitely help it evolve. The man looked at the system screen, deciding to check the promotion program for the Red River ape first, but then someone suddenly shouted for him to wait. He saw that there were two ways for the Red River ape to promote to the elite level: the normal evolution path, and an advanced path requiring the absorption of yin attribute power to eliminate its weakness and evolve into a new species. The normal evolution needed a huge amount of materials, far more than what was provided for the examination. He realized he had to take a risk with the other promotion route. After confirming the materials for the advanced promotion, which included dangerous stuff like black candle grass and undead monster cores, the man decided he had to take a big risk. The system detailed the advanced process: twisting lesions, absorbing yin power, and after 3 days of black candle grass, consuming an elite-level undead monster crystal core. The next steps involved adding powder to sulfuric acid water, which would make the Red River ape invade the lesion, and someone then asked if this was the list of materials he wanted. The person holding the list pointed out that the materials, like black candle grass and skeleton mushroom, were full of poison, questioning if the goal was to train the ape or kill it. The main character calmly replied that a serious illness needs a strong cure and assured Brother Zhu that he knew exactly what he was doing. Brother Zhu stood silently by the door, looking unimpressed after hearing the results of the written exam. He scoffed, thinking that the guy who got full marks on the paper was just another person who only knew theory and couldn't handle practical matters. 3 days passed, and the setting was now in a sterile-looking room with numbered compartments. The Red River ape, lying on a stretcher, begged to be let up to take another test, clearly exhausted from the process. Someone exclaimed in frustration that the monster was almost promoted, wondering what went wrong with the test. The man observing looked stressed, thinking that the process was not scientific, as the chemical formulas around his head suggested deep contemplation. He wondered why the ingredients and proportions of the culture solution, which he followed strictly, had no effect, even though the black candle grass seemed to be working as a stimulant and healing the wounds. Despite the setbacks, the Red River ape, fed the black candle grass for 3 days, seemed to have reached a temporary peak in spirit and condition, and the undead monster cores were starting to work. Next step was to soak the Red River ape in sulfuric acid water now that the initial preparations were done. The man showed the cage key, mentioning that the association provided monsters that were mostly non-aggressive. The other person warned him to be careful because no one knew how many times this Red River ape had been tested and tortured before, adding that communication is hard without a blood contract. Despite the risk of releasing the ape now, the main character decided he had come too far to stop and had to trust the process. He told the ape he was letting it out, but demanded obedience in return. Using the key, he unlocked the cage and presented the key to the ape, signaling it to come out. The man stood ready with arms spread wide as he called for the ape to come out into the brighter area, promising transformation. The ape emerged, and the observer was stunned by the speed and proficiency of the release, showing a slight smirk on his face. The ape moved incredibly fast, a blur of red energy. In a sudden burst of action, the ape kicked the man, sending him flying backward while his papers scattered. The main character, surprisingly calm, hugged the now transformed ape, telling it, "Okay, let go," and emphasized that helping it get promoted was important. He then moved towards some heavy white curtains covering an area, pulling them aside to reveal a large tub. The tub was filled with dark, glowing blue liquid, presumably the sulfuric acid water mentioned earlier. The man smiled at the ape, which looked terrified, telling it to lie down and take a dip, promising a transformation. The ape, showing some reluctance, pulled at its fur near its shoulder. Suddenly, a dark, shadowy energy erupted from the ape as it reacted in fear to the situation. The ape appeared to be shaking violently, possibly splitting or reforming as it endured the process. The man reassured the ape, calling it a good guy and quite clever, and patted its head gently while telling it to trust me. He told the ape he could give it strength, but it needed to be courageous. The ape looked up at him with wide, concerned eyes as the man placed his hand on its head. Someone commented that the ape's reaction was so intense it made people feel distressed, as the ape looked grumpy and the small figure next to it looked on. More dark energy flowed off the ape as it seemed to be undergoing a powerful change into glowing blue liquid. The main character recoiled sharply, coughing from the sudden smoke and intense energy released by the process. As the smoke cleared somewhat, a bright red alarm light began flashing intensely on the floor. The fire alarm suddenly went off in room 10, making the operator yell for someone to handle the fire quickly before it spread. Someone wondered if the young man in room 10 made a mistake and caused this fire, while another person rushed to grab a fire extinguisher. The response team quickly rushed towards room 10, moving very fast to deal with the emergency. Meanwhile, a well-dressed man smiled, happy that the money spent on Lao Lai was worth it because he seemed very dependable. As the response team approached, a bright red light flashed inside the room, signaling danger. One of the guards, perhaps startled by the noise or the light, seemed to have fallen or been knocked over near the door. The movement was intense, suggesting a big disturbance or action happening right as they arrived. The guards, arriving at the scene, were confused, asking where the fire was as they only saw some smoke but no actual flames. One of them questioned if there was a mistake, while the main character, looking calm, just raised an eyebrow. The main character then greeted the approaching guard, asking what brought Brother Zhu over to check on things. Brother Zhu sternly told the young man he was making too much noise, which is why he came to check. The young man apologized, saying he got distracted because he was fascinated by his work and didn't pay attention. After checking room 10, the guard reported that everything was clear and told everyone to dismiss the alarm and go back. Some people standing outside commented on the amount of noise, saying the young man was too young and inexperienced, and concluded that the experiment must have failed since there were no monsters visible. The well-dressed man laughed cruelly, taunting the young man about how he would try to cover this up this time. Suddenly, deep within what looked like a containment tank, there were strange bubbling sounds and dark water stirring violently. Something massive and skeletal, glowing with a fierce purple energy, started to rise up from the dark liquid. A giant, shadowy hand made of energy smashed through the containment barrier, shocking some onlookers who cried out in surprise. The well-dressed man screamed in terror, completely shocked by the monstrous sight appearing, while the main character seemed to react with a small sound of surprise. The terrifying, glowing purple entity continued to emerge with immense force, pushing back the main character. The powerful emergence caused a massive disturbance, forcing everyone near it to react strongly. The monster was enveloped in dark purple and blue ethereal flames, looking incredibly powerful and alien. The full form of the monster revealed itself. A giant skull with glowing blue eyes, holding a bright red core, towering over the main character. Two examiners were stunned, one asking what that thing was, and the other asking if it was a Red River ape, implying it was something they knew. A guard expressed amazement, saying the kid actually succeeded, not just on the written exam, and his system notification confirmed the successful evolution of the Red River ape, avoiding a death skill. The main character looked pleased as his system displayed the stats of his new monster, Battle Bone Dead Ape, level 11, elite quality, undead attribute, and weakness to light, thinking the system was amazing. He then calmly stated this was just a small test and that in the future, with enough materials, he could promote the quality of any monster. Others nearby observed the monstrous transformation, noting the gas around the bones was solid and the bones looked metallic. One of the examiners excitedly called out to Master Feng, declaring that this must be a brand new, never-before-discovered type of monster. Master Feng agreed that undead monsters were rare, but then suggested that the creator of this monster was even more precious. The main character, glowing slightly with purple energy, hinted that the most precious thing wasn't the new monster itself, but the person who created it. A close-up on an examiner's eye showed intense shock. The main character then cheerfully announced to Examiner Feng that he succeeded in evolving the Red River ape, and Feng congratulated him on being first in the written examination. As the purple energy surrounded the main character's hand, he seemed to grasp or connect with the emerging monster, which looked like a skull with intense blue eyes. The main character stood there, seemingly unbothered by the massive creature emerging next to him, while the monster made a soft sound. The main character simply touched the monster's hand and said, "Right." He then smiled at the others and said, "Already helped you to improve the quality, still not satisfied." The giant skull monster looked down with glowing blue eyes and softly uttered a name, Gru. An examiner stated that promoted monsters were usually rewards for association employees, and he had never seen monsters like this before. He then declared that this monster was different, and he was going to claim it this time, while the long-haired man beside him noted that the monster seemed very dependent on the main character, Gao Peng. The long-haired man extended his hand generously, saying if the monster depended on Gao Peng, he would just give it to him. The examiner and another person nearby reacted with extreme shock and confusion, marked by huge question marks and lightning effects. The main character, Gao Peng turned around slightly, looking back at the extended hand with a questioning expression. The president looked at the young man and offered to give him the newly evolved monster. Some people were shocked, wondering if the president really wanted to give that monster away. The president confirmed his offer, explaining that this was a new type of monster with unknown data. He noted that the upgrade seemed successful and assured the young man he wasn't losing anything. Then the president asked the young man directly if he wanted to take the monster away with him. The young man realized the upgrade was even better than expected. The monster went from ordinary quality to elite quality. The system showed the monster was now a battle-bone dead ape, elite quality, undead type, and could be promoted directly to epic class at level 20. The young man understood that this evolved creature was already an epic class monster. Another person chimed in, saying this monster wasn't a Red River ape anymore and suggested they should just agree to let the young man take it since it seemed attached to him. As the monster made a sound, someone else shouted to wait, claiming the president's action was against the rules. The president, standing authoritatively, explained the association's rule. Successfully evolved monsters are usually given to association employees. He added that the specific Red River ape had been tested 6 times, implying it shouldn't have been upgraded this time. A shorter man agreed with the president, shouting that the monster should have been eliminated, questioning how such a young person could upgrade a nearly dead monster. The president smiled, saying that for someone so young with no experience to achieve this advancement, something suspicious must have happened. The short man aggressively pointed out that the young man must have cheated in the test. The president with the eye patch questioned what kind of cheating they were talking about. The older man explained that the difficulty of the exam was too high for a junior trainer, suggesting the young man might have just accidentally found some method and cured the monster. The eye patch president asked for clarification on this suggestion. The young man sarcastically rephrased it, asking if they meant he cheated by getting lucky, but insisted that since the result was successful, the certificate must still be issued. The president argued that if they didn't issue the certificate, the association's fairness would be questioned, but the monster must follow the usual rule regarding employee rewards. The eye patch president simply repeated rule before bursting into laughter. He then said he wasn't strict with discipline and laughed, calling the others ignorant, like frogs at the bottom of a well, suggesting they didn't know the wider world. The president then challenged the young man to show his skills so everyone could see there was a bigger world out there. The young man was annoyed that just coming for a certificate led to this trouble, feeling insulted by the accusations of youth and cheating. He stood firm, ready to prove them wrong and show his true strength. The young man sighed, thinking about how he just wanted a certificate and ended up in all this mess. He challenged their assumption, asking if being young meant he must have cheated, and if they could do it but he couldn't, then they were just blind. He further criticized them for thinking anything impossible done by others must be fishy, calling their attitude incompetence and ignorance. He then started explaining the logic behind the monster's evolution, touching his glasses dismissively. The young man pointed out that if others think something is impossible, they immediately suspect foul play. He dismissed their previous statement as rubbish and began correcting their understanding of the Red River ape, showing an image of the apes near a river. He explained that the name Red River ape is because they live near the Hanshui River, but their attributes have nothing to do with water. They just associate it with the river. Calling them dumbasses, he stated that judging by the monster's previous state, many people made the same mistake, making them all wrong. He revealed that the previous handlers gave the ape too much water and yin materials, not knowing its real weakness. The short man angrily yelled that the weakness was clearly wood system, but the young man corrected him, stating the weakness is actually the yin system, which was part of the exam's focus. The eye patch president seemed to understand, as the young man explained that because the Red River ape's strength was deep in the bone marrow and hard to clear, he did the opposite of what was expected. He detailed his method, first, strengthening the soul with black can leg grass for 3 days. This was followed by using a large amount of undead materials and stimulating it with undead monster crystals, showing the various materials used. He warned them not to try this casually because the order and ratio of materials were crucial. Otherwise, the result could be unpredictable. He worried aloud about what the tested monster would become if someone messed up the process, especially since he couldn't afford the responsibility if the species went extinct this way. The short man nervously commented that the new generation was fearful, as the young man clearly showed superior ability even beyond the junior trainer certificate. The president Feng agreed that the junior trainer certificate was too low for him and decided to grant him an intermediate monster trainer certificate instead. He clarified that the intermediate certificate was beyond his authority, requiring an assessment at the Yanjing headquarters, but assured the young man he would get it due to his qualifications. The young man thanked President Feng happily. The president then turned to the cheating accusations, asking who actually cheated and if they thought he, as the chairman, couldn't figure things out. He then pointed out the absurdity. Why would the monster slated for elimination be in the examination room in the first place? The short man was clearly shocked. Other staff members started confirming their suspicions, saying Wang Shu's speech seemed odd and examiner Lai had been targeting Gao Peng. One person confirmed the targeting, and another offered to testify that there were no real problems with the procedure itself. The employee who seemed to be on the young man's side revealed that Director Lai deliberately added the Red River ape to the assessment list, leading to an angry outburst from the short man. He further exposed that Director Lai took bribes from the candidate Wang Shu, and the evidence was in the monster's mobilization record, which could be checked. Upon hearing this, the short man realized everything was over and collapsed onto the floor in defeat. The president declared that with the evidence, candidate Wang Shu was severely cheating and banned from the Chang'an Monster Trainer Association exams for the next 3 years. He also announced that former supervisor Lai Jin was expelled and would never be hired again, to which the onlookers cheered that they deserved it. President Feng then invited the young man into his office for tea, saying the day was a joke for him. As they walked, the president mentioned he also needed to ask the young man for a little favor. Gao Peng proudly showed off his intermediate certificate. He remembered that the skull ghoul ape, which he named Dummy, liked to stay in a daze when it was alone. He heard that getting this certificate would add 30 points to the college entrance exam, making the exam worthwhile. Gao Peng felt great because not only did he get an elite quality monster, but he also made a good profit and secured an identity token. This token was convenient for building a good relationship with the president of the association. However, he paused, thinking about something else. The scene then moved to Feng Zhu's office. President Feng invited Mr. Yao to represent Chang'an City in the World Monster Trainers competition. Feng Zhu explained that Chang'an City's number and quality of trainers were not very good. This is why they hadn't gotten good results in major competitions for several years, but now, if Mr. Gao agreed, things could change. He pointed out that it had only been 3 years since the world changed, and the competition had no strict age limit, putting everyone on the same starting line. Feng Zhu believed that young talents like Mr. Gao had an advantage in terms of growth potential, which made him very excited. When Gao Peng seemed lost in thought, Feng Zhu gently asked if he was not interested, mentioning that the top 10 players could win at least 10,000 credits. Feng Zhu admitted he was selfishly hoping to secure Mr. Gao for the team, but Gao Peng interrupted, thinking about the pressure. Gao Peng suddenly stood up, shouting President Feng, and declaring that greater ability means greater responsibility. With a determined look, he accepted the challenge, stating, "This competition, I will go." Later, on a bus, Gao Peng's monster, Dummy, complained that the competition sounded annoying. Another passenger noticed Dummy, exclaiming that it was a super rare undead monster, easily identifiable by its bones. Someone else excitedly wondered what would happen if they removed a bone from the undead monster, eager to try. Gao Peng internally reminded himself about the 10,000 credit bonus for the top 10, thinking that poor people like him don't have the luxury to choose. Suddenly, the giant purple skeleton monster, Dummy, enveloped the curious passenger in red, glowing energy. Gao Peng thought to himself that he had to do this to support himself and Desi, while others on the bus were shocked by the fierce monster. As the energy tightened, the passenger looked terrified, showing extreme pain. Gao Peng addressed the now massive Dummy as Dummy, and mentioned that Desi eats a lot, so he won't eat less looking at Dummy's size. He humorously complained that it was hard to raise Dummy, but then quickly spun it into a boast about being handsome and a genius at a young age. Onlookers whispered, amazed that this boy, who hadn't even signed a contract, could control such a fierce monster so obediently, wondering when Chang'an City got such a strong man. As they exited the bus, Dummy towered over the street, ready to follow Gao Peng. Gao Peng suggested they should ask Sister Tang Tang to discuss things. As Gao Peng walked away, Dummy uttered a sound of concern, grew. Dummy suddenly pushed Gao Peng forward with its skeletal hand, making him shout, "Ah!" A powerful purple energy blast erupted from Dummy toward the city. Dummy was seen unleashing a massive attack. The monster stood tall after the attack, seemingly having done something powerful. Gao Peng rubbed his lower back, asking Dummy why it pushed him so suddenly, as it hurt. Dummy cried out, "Grew!" And Gao Peng realized his monster was worried about him getting attacked by the other passenger. Gao Peng smiled reassuringly at Dummy and told him not to worry, that everything was okay. He then declared they would be a family from now on, and tried to introduce Dummy to Daisy, who appeared as a small purple, caterpillar-like creature. Daisy looked very confused and surprised when introduced to Dummy. Outside, a well-dressed woman, Sister Tang Tang, called out to Gao Peng, saying she and Daisy came to pick him up. Gao Peng recognized her, calling out Sister Tang Tang. Daisy looked panicked, pointing at the huge Dummy and asking what was going on. Sister Tang Tang asked about Daisy, proudly stating she gave him lots of good food to make him healthy and strong. Gao Peng inwardly noted that Daisy looked extremely overnourished after seeing him. Sister Tang Tang insisted Daisy was healthy and strong, arguing that Daisy was too skinny before, so Gao Peng wasn't careful enough with the feeding. Dummy seemed to react to Daisy's plumpness, suggesting Daisy had gone out of shape with a hiss. Sister Tang Tang quickly told everyone not to focus on details and asked Gao Peng how the exam went. Gao Peng replied it wasn't bad, mentioning he faced a monster that failed to level up 6 times. He casually explained he upgraded it and easily got the Intermediate Monster Trainer certificate, which meant the president had to give him a successfully leveled up monster. Sister Tang Tang was shocked, asking what? And then, intermediate? When she heard about the certificate, she asked if it was true, and Gao Peng happily showed her the actual Intermediate Monster Trainer's certificate, confirming it was true. Sister Tang Tang was clearly surprised by his rapid growth, calling him Xiao Peng. Gao Peng asked her what she meant, as he was about to talk to her about something later. Sister Tang Tang then began to explain why monster trainers have such a high status, concluding that no matter how strong the monsters are, they are still monstrous beings. The main character learned about a new ability, which is a damage transfer that lets him send any damage he gets to his own monster. This move has limits, as the monster must choose to activate it, but since monsters have much better defense than humans, this skill is very helpful for him. After learning this, he felt connected to his monster, Daisy, like an invisible thread was tying them together. The connection felt complete after the contract was finished, and he saw his connection with Daisy clearly. He stretched, happy that the contract was done, and thought that Sister Tang Tang was amazing to make such a thing happen so easily, showing she was important. Then, he noticed his monster Daisy had gotten really fat, looking like a huge purple pig now. He teased Daisy about getting fat, calling it a purple pig, and Daisy seemed to talk back. He told Daisy to stop pretending and brought over a mirror so it could see how plump it had become. He then demanded Daisy get up to exercise and lose the fat, promising a quality upgrade after it slimmed down. Daisy groaned, not wanting to become a fat flying centipede in the future, but then they had to go as he told Daisy, let's go. The main character worried about Daisy turning into a fat flying centipede later on. The story then shifts to day 2 in Chang'an City Center, showing the busy city buildings. Sister Tang Tang called out for Xiao Peng and directed him where to go, and Xiao Peng thanked her for waiting. Xiao Peng was very happy that an intermediate monster trainer like him was willing to help her small company. Sister Tang Tang then told him she wanted to tell him something important after picking him up. She explained that she partnered with others to open a small monster training institution and put a lot of money into it. Xiao Peng noticed the location was great, right in the busiest downtown area, meaning the rent must be high. Sister Tang Tang admitted she rented the place because business was good, but things went downhill after the trainers were taken away. She coughed a bit, and then told him to come on so they could go upstairs first. As they walked, she informed him that the studio was on the 3rd floor and the salary offered was the highest in the industry. Plus, he would get 20% of the shares. She assured him his studies would not be delayed, saying he only needed to come on weekends and that being a monster trainer was actually easy work. Xiao Peng thought the salary was too high for the treatment, mentioning there were many trainers available to hire if needed. Sister Tang Tang argued that having no monster trainer was a big issue they couldn't ignore, especially since they had a store in the city center and offered powerful monster control techniques. Xiao Peng thought that anyone else would suspect this whole generous offer was a trap. However, he remembered that Sister Tang Tang had secretly cared for him as an orphan for the past 3 years, so he decided she would not harm him. He accepted the generous offer, believing his abilities were worth it and that he could make her even more money later on. Sister Tang Tang was relieved that Xiao Peng didn't notice how intense her efforts were to secure him, as the elevator arrived at the 3rd floor. As they got off the elevator, a cheerful receptionist named Zun Quanquan greeted Sister Tang Tang warmly. Sister Tang Tang quickly introduced Xiao Peng to Quanquan and said he arrived just in time. She told Xiaopeng that she had already explained everything to Quangqun, who would now show him around and introduce him to other colleagues. Sister Tang then quickly left, saying she had other things to do and told them to go ahead. Xiaopeng was left slightly stunned, worrying if everything was going too smoothly. Quangqun asked Mr. Gao Peng to start with the registration information at the Fei Peng Monster Trainer Studio. Gao Peng told her to just call him Gao Peng and that he would be relying on her care. Quangqun noted his intermediate monster trainer status while thinking that the rich boss was probably tricked again. Gao Peng decided that to earn enough money for Sister Tang, he needed to set a high charging standard. He reasoned that unlike other trainers, following his instructions gave a nearly 100% success rate for level advancement, so his fee should not be the same as others. Gao Peng stated that receiving less than his knowledge is worth is disrespectful, so he decided to charge 3 times the current highest price for an intermediate monster trainer. Quangqun confirmed that the information was entered, but expressed surprise about the fee being 3 times the maximum. She warned him that without experience, this high price could lead to no clients and hurt the studio's reputation. Gao Peng, with a serious look, asked what she meant by that implication. Suddenly, a big, imposing man appeared behind them, demanding to know who Mr. Ma was. The imposing man told Gao Peng he had to prove he actually had the ability he claimed. Gao Peng then countered, asking if the fee being 3 times the maximum mattered, stating that if he could cure the man's monster, he would pay 10 times as much.